Hi Homeworthy, I'm Imogen and welcome to my little house in London. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
I'm Imogen Stead and I work for the children's charity Make-A-Wish in the UK doing fundraising and marketing. We are in London, East London specifically. We live in Walthamstow, which is kind of northeast London. Our home is a 3-bed Victorian terrace. So when we bought it, it was actually only 2 bedrooms, but we've done a loft conversion, so now it's 3. So obviously London houses are crazy expensive. So when we were looking to buy a house, we used to rent in the other side of London. So we were looking to buy a house and we looked around a few different areas, including looking around outside of London to kind of see what we could afford, and we landed on Walthamstow because at that time it was relatively affordable compared to the rest of London. I mean, still pretty expensive, and we looked around quite a few different flats and houses here. We knew we wanted a renovation project so that we could add value to the house, which is kind of why we were looking around this house in particular. It was completely livable because the people who owned the house before us had lived here for 50 years, but it was still a project, so everything really did need doing because obviously they'd lived here for quite a long time. So that was kind of why we went with it. The structural bones of it were sound, so we didn't need to do too much kind of demolition work, and the extension in the kitchen that we're sitting in now had already been done as well. So we knew that that kind of would save us some money, but it still needed gutting and would be able to add value to it. So that's why we chose it. My overall kind of decorating style and interior design style, I would say, is quite traditional with kind of a touch of modern. So because this house is Victorian, we've really tried to lean into that with things like built-in furniture and built-in cupboards. We didn't have any original features left, so the previous owners had kind of taken all of the original features out, so it would have had things probably like coving, Victorian fireplaces, sash windows, things like that when it was originally built. So we have tried to add some of those things back in so that it looks in keeping with the period that it was made in, but we've tried to also keep it modern so it's still livable for us. So yeah, I'd say traditional with a mix of modern is our style. Welcome to our hallway. This is the first room that you come into when you come into our home. When we actually first moved in, when you stepped in through the front door, this entire space was open plan. So the walls here weren't here. You could see right through. The staircase goes up here, and you could see right through underneath the stairs into this back room here. So it was just the wall at the very back end that you could see when we first moved in. So we've done a lot of work. One of the first projects that we actually did was to reinstate this section of the hallway, the very front next to the front door, so that we could create an enclosed living room, which we'll show you in a minute. So we built this wall ourselves, installed the door, and closed that off within kind of the first few months of moving into the house. And then if I show you a bit further down, we have then changed the staircase because this used to be kind of completely open with open treads and you could see right through. So we've changed that to be kind of an enclosed space as well. And then in the back area here, we have then added kind of storage area. So we've got a cupboard here for coats, and then we've also built this storage bench here, which has got all of our shoes in. And we've kind of got space for storing the pram for our daughter in this area as well. So yeah, it's had quite a lot of work building this wall in as well and adding this door to the kitchen, which again never used to be there because you could just walk through the entire house right into the kitchen with no doors whatsoever when we first moved in. And actually when we first moved in as well, this wall here was where the bathroom door was. So the only bathroom in the house was downstairs, and you literally walked through a door that was in this wall here, and then you were in the bathroom and you went kind of round it to get into the kitchen. So this room has had a lot of changes since we've moved in, and it's actually the last room that we finished, just because we had to kind of do everything else and do lots of building work to actually get it into a point to be able to finish it. So we added kind of The moulding along here, the dado rail, to kind of give it that Victorian look, the more traditional look. We added the radiator covers, which we've then painted all in the same colour at the bottom, to kind of elongate the hallway and make it feel like a bigger space. And then we've painted the built-in furniture in that same colour as well, just to kind of make it all look blended and part of the kind of built-in look that what we wanted. So yeah, we've got these 6 photos on the wall here, which are all from our wedding day. It's kind of a timeline actually of the wedding. So saying the vows where my husband messed them up when we first got married, and then coming out of the venue, and then some photos outside, the toasts and the speeches, and then our first dance as well. And just off our hallway is the living room. So if you want to follow me in. Welcome to our living room. This was the first room that we renovated when we moved into our house back in 2020. Like I said in the hallway, when you first walked in, it was all open plan. So these 2 walls weren't here, and that was one of our first projects. So we built these 2 walls ourselves, had it plastered, and then began the decorating. Again, to kind of in keeping with the Victorian style that we were going for, we put the alcove cupboards in. So we had these made by a carpenter. We didn't do these ourselves. We're not that good at carpentry. But yeah, this is kind of the traditional look that you would have in a Victorian terrace and what would have been here originally. So we reinstated these because those had been taken out. When we first moved in, we had a gas fire in the fireplace here, which we ripped out because it was very 80s and it was hideous. And we kind of toyed with the idea of putting a reclaimed Victorian fireplace back in. But ultimately, because this room is only 3 meters across, it's really, really small. And it's actually the hearth for a Victorian fireplace, and the hearth that was there originally took up quite a lot of space, and we decided it'd be better to have more floor space in the room than have kind of a fireplace there. So we instead kind of made a fireplace nook. So we still got the working chimney breast if we ever wanted to reinstate it, and we've put this little electric wood burner effect stove in instead, which works better for us at the moment. So the furniture in this room, we've really, because it's quite a small space, we've got a 2-seater sofa and then a 1-seater sofa which matches, and we tried to go for things that were elevated off the floor, so they've got wooden legs and you can see underneath them, because then it creates that kind of feeling that there is more space than there actually is, rather than have furniture that went all the way to the ground. And then we've just got a little nest of tables as well between those 2 sofas, so that we can kind of bring those out when we have people round, or kind of put drinks on them and put them away again. In terms of the shelves and how we've styled them, we've got quite a few books on them. I think books are really important to kind of, obviously that probably would be what you would traditionally store on them, but I didn't want to just have a whole wall of books because we've got that in our library room somewhere else. So we've kind of got a few books that are more selected for the colour, so that the colour palette goes in here, because I wanted to keep it with kind of the neutrals, the whites, the blues, and the kind of greeny tone that we've got on the cupboards, and which is why we've kind of tied the cushions in with the blankets that we've got, and then tried to tie the books that I put on the shelves in with that colour scheme as well. And then we've just got a few other photos. So we've got a photo of our daughter, a photo of my husband at university, so a very old one there. And then we've got some other ones over here. So again, we've got some photos from our wedding on this side. And then kind of a picture here that my cousin made for us. And then another photo here of us at a wedding. And this one up here is very random, but we went to the Titanic experience, and we had a photo taken and thought it was quite interesting. So we had it printed and paid the £10 for that photo, and that one's up there now. And then we've also got this print over here, which so I'm actually from Newcastle, not from London. So we've got this one, which is the Geordie House Rules. So obviously do not have much of a Geordie accent because I grew up in London and then we moved to Newcastle. But yeah, I thought that's kind of a nod to where I'm from. So we've got that picture in here as well. Because we've got the wooden flooring in here, which again, we installed that ourselves back in 2020, just to kind of ground the room and add a bit of warmth in the winter, because obviously it's quite cold in London in the winter. We've got this rug, so it's a kind of white rug with black spots that we ordered online from La Redoute, which is a French brand. And I just think it kind of ties the room together, because without it, the room, it just kind of feels like furniture placed at the sides, but it means that there's something in the centre that kind of grounds your eye, because we didn't want to have a coffee table in here, because it would just take up too much space with it being such a small room, that we felt that you would just end up kind of walking into it, and I already have bruises all over my legs from walking into furniture, so I don't need any more, which is why we've kind of got the rug instead of a coffee table, to make sure that there's still something to focus your eye on and it doesn't just feel like furniture placed at the sides. I'd say my biggest piece of advice for homeowners looking to go through a big renovation is to check the house that you're buying is going to meet your kind of long-term needs. Renovation is really, really expensive, and it's gone up so much even since we bought our house 5 years ago. So I guess you don't really want to be doing a renovation unless it's going to kind of work for you for the long term, or you're going to be able to add a significant amount of value if you're then going to want to move soon, because you don't want to invest too much money into something to then sell it and potentially make a loss. So I'd say looking at that would be really important. And I guess alongside that, budgeting for it and realising that you might not have the budget to do everything that you want to do straight away. So we had to wait. I mean, it's basically taken us the full 5 years to get the house finished. We only really finished it a couple of weeks ago. So knowing that you're probably going to have to save, do a bit of work, save again, do a bit more work, and having that kind of long-term process and long-term view of it, I think is important as well. One of the most kind of dramatic changes that we made in the house was to the front of the house. When we actually bought the house, it was probably fair to say that it was the ugliest house on the street. The previous owners had pebble dashed the front of it, so they'd covered over the nice original Victorian brick. And where we've got the bay window, they have also built a porch over the top of the bay window, so the right-hand side window in the bay looked out into a porch. They'd replaced all of the windows with kind of fake brown UPVC, like fake wood effect UPVC windows with kind of fake stained glass, and it was very of its time. It needed to change. So that was one of the things that we were 100%, if we ever wanted to sell this house again, no matter what you kind of did to the inside, if you kept the outside looking like that, you would not be getting a kind of what the house would probably be worth if you changed it. So that was one of the first projects we actually undertook when we bought the house. So we hired a contractor, and the whole thing took around 4 weeks. And he removed the pebble dash first, and then he sanded down the bricks and restored them, and then repointed the bricks. And then he had taken down the porch as well, rebuilt the bay window, which is made out of timber. So he built kind of the timber structure off-site and then brought it here, added a new roof onto it. The windows in the front bedroom were actually bigger than they had originally been in the house, and we could tell that from looking at the neighbours' houses. They'd been made much wider and also taller, which I think must have been to bring in more light, but it just made the whole front of the house look a bit out of proportion. So we changed those, made them back to what the original size had been, and we found that out by going to our neighbour's house and measuring their windows. So made friends with them. The contractor then made the windows back to the original size. We got all new windows put in so that they're sash windows, which would have been what the house would have had originally. And then we added our shutters as well, so that it's kind of got that, again, that Victorian look to the front of the house to make it really look as traditional and as it would have been in that era that it was built as we could. My favourite room in the house is probably the kitchen and the snug area, which is kind of adjoins it. It's the room that we have done last, although it was the room that I wanted to do the most when we first moved in. And I really like it because it's so bright and open. So when we first moved in, the bathroom was actually in the kitchen, so I basically would be sitting in the bathroom right now, and it kind of took up this half of the room. And we've knocked that down, taken the bathroom upstairs, and made this one big kind of open plan kitchen with a snug area and a library wall at the back. And it's just totally transformed the space, and we spend probably 90% of our time in this room now. Might as well not bother doing the rest of the house. Welcome to the kitchen. So this room is kind of a dual purpose room. So in this side of the kitchen, we've got what we call our snug area, which was one of the most recent rooms that we've designed. It's kind of a happy accident that we have this room. When we first moved in, we had actually had quite grand plans to take out this wall that you can see here. But we had some quotes from builders that were costing around £20,000 to do that, to put a steel in and take that wall out. So we decided maybe that's not financially viable, and is there another solution that we could have to give us the big open plan kitchen that we wanted, but without completely breaking the bank. So in the end, what we decided to do was take the wall back slightly. So it had been built out a little bit this way. But with non-supporting structures, I guess. So we took it back to just the original brick wall, and then built this wall to coincide with that, so that we still had kind of the big kitchen, dining, living area, but without spending too much money on it. So it was kind of a compromise, but I think it's actually worked out for the better, because it's meant that we've got this snug area, which in our original plan probably would have been more of the kitchen area. And because it's quite dark, because there's no windows and it's in the middle of the house, I actually think it works better as kind of a library, reading, watching TV space, because it's kind of really cozy and it's where you want to sit in the evenings rather than necessarily where you want to sit during the day. And having the kitchen in the light part works really well for things like cooking and when you're entertaining, and having that connection out into the garden, because we've got bifold doors that go all the way across the back now as well. I think that it actually works. So the compromise that we made has actually turned out for the better. So in this room, again, there was basically nothing. It was just blank walls. So we had this library wall built a couple of months ago that we've then painted in this light blue colour. To kind of tie in with the blues that we've got going on in the blues and greens that we've got going on in other parts of the house. And then we had the cupboards built at the back here as well. And this is Holly, the dog, who wants to be involved in absolutely everything that we do. So she's here as well. And we've got the stairs that go up in that cupboard there. And underneath we've got a spot behind here, which is actually Holly's bed. So that's kind of built in, out of the way, so you don't have kind of the dog's bed in the middle of the room, which is what it had been previously. And it's got a little curtain that goes across, so she's all cozy at night as well. And then it's given us just so much storage space, which again, with this being a small house, is really needed. So we've got things like our Hoover, the ironing board, a tumble dryer, all living in that cupboard. Which you just wouldn't even know was here. So I think it's worked out really well, having this kind of storage area at the back as well. So this is the kitchen area of the kitchen diner. So with the snug over here and then the kitchen in this big space here. And again, when we moved into the house, where I'm standing now was actually the downstairs bathroom. So kind of up until the edge of the island and all past here was the downstairs bathroom. So we took out this bathroom, took down the walls to give us enough space to have this big open plan kitchen diner. In the original floor print of the house, the kitchen was just kind of a galley kitchen at the very back here, and it just had some windows that went across the back and then one door on this side. So we took all of that out, used the same opening that already existed again, so that we didn't have to kind of spend money building like a new lintel, because that was already in there. And then we installed the bifold doors, so took out the windows and put in bifold doors so that in the summer we can open those up and just like flow straight into the garden, which is really good. And then in terms of the kitchen, I wanted it to not feel like there was too many cupboards above us, because it's not massive. I mean, it's not small, but it's not massive. So we went for this open shelving with kind of low cupboards in the middle, and then had the taller cupboards either side so that it looks quite symmetrical. And we've kind of got the splashback at the back here, which is the same material as the worktop. So again, it kind of all flows. And then we've got the same worktops on the island. And then we've got a double dresser unit that we made over on the other side, which again uses the same worktops. And that's kind of where we keep lots of food, and all of our crockery and glasses and mugs and things like that kind of all live on that side of the kitchen. In the evenings, especially in the summer, this room is really, really nice to be in, because it's actually north facing, so it can feel quite dark at times. But when we did the kitchen renovation, we installed a skylight, so that brings in lots of light during the day. But then by the time the evening comes around, the sun kind of comes around and starts coming in through the back doors as well. So in the evening, you get really, really nice light in here. So it's a really nice space to kind of entertain and also to have dinner with the family. So now that Eliza's 11 months old and absolutely loving food, it can be quite messy, because she's obviously in a food throwing stage. So she likes to throw food, she likes to feed Holly from the table. I absolutely love cooking in here, and it's really nice. We decided to have the hob on the island rather than having the sink on the island, so that firstly you don't have all of the, obviously there's none here at the moment, but the kind of usual washing up clutter that sits when you're drying things. you don't have that in the centre of the room, so it's not a focal point. So we had the sink on this side and we have the hob on the island, so that when you are entertaining or when you're talking kind of in the evening and making dinner, you can be actually face to face and talking to the person while you're like talking to my husband while I'm making dinner or while he's making dinner for me. So that's why we decided to have the hob on the island. We have this chair, which as you can see is Holly's favourite chair in the house. She likes to sit here and look out into the garden, look at the local cats, bark at them, tell them to go out of the garden. So it's a snuggler sofa, so you can fit 2 people on it. And again, it's just another space where if you have people round, there's somewhere else for them to sit, and it's another space to kind of sit and read a book. Not that I have much time to do that anymore, or sit with Eliza and look out of the window when Holly is not asleep on it. Welcome to the upstairs of the house. So this is the landing, which actually when we first moved in, this banister here wasn't here, and this all the way along here was a wall. So you walked up these little stairs here and there was a bedroom on the left and then a bedroom on the right. So this entire space that you can see now that I'm stood in was just one bedroom. So we've done a lot of work to make this kind of a completely different space to what it was. So we obviously installed a new set of stairs, took this wall down when we did our loft conversion, put a banister in and made this into a landing. And then we have then put a bathroom upstairs, because again, when we first moved in, there was just the one bathroom that was downstairs, but it was really important to us that we had one upstairs so that you're kind of not having to go down to the loo in the middle of the night. You can just kind of go across the corridor and be there. So that is what we've done. So the next room I can show you is the bathroom. So this is our first floor bathroom. It's really quite small because we had really limited space when we moved in to fit it in. Basically because there was a window in this back bedroom that we couldn't move, so we had to build the wall right up to the window, so to make the bathroom as big as it possibly could be, but without kind of encroaching on that window and having to replace it. So the bathroom, it's only 1.5 by 1.5 metres, so it's been really small and it's been quite a tricky space to design, but we've tried to make it as space saving as possible. So we found a really short bath that fits into the space, so it's only 1.4 metres length, but it's really wide, so it's 800 millimetres wide, so you can kind of spread out that way, and it's also really deep, so when you actually get into it, you're not kind of uncovered under, you can actually get into the water fully, which really, really works with the space. And then we've kind of got a shower installed over the top of it, so that if we want to have a shower, we can have a shower in here as well. So we've also got a vanity unit in the bathroom. Again, this space, because we had to fit a sink in behind the door, which was really tricky, and it's incredibly difficult to find a really narrow sink. So we found one which basically the narrowest it could be, so it would fit in that space that we've got behind the door. But we couldn't find a vanity unit that was ready made, so we ended up having to build that ourselves. So again, we've built this DIY vanity unit, which fits exactly to the space that we need it to, which is perfect because we're not kind of losing any space. And yeah, like I said, it was impossible to find something ready made to fit into this area. So we made that ourselves and installed a countertop, and then installed the sink and the tap on top of it. In the bathroom as well, we've got the herringbone tiling, which is kind of my favourite bit of the bathroom, I think. It took 2 tilers 2 full 12 to 14 hour days to install it, and it was quite expensive, and I think had I known quite how long it would take and how expensive it would be, we might not have gone for herringbone, but I think it's worth it because it looks really good. But the reason that it took so long is because it's such a small space, nearly every single tile had to be cut, so there's very few bits where they could just lay the herringbone up, so they ended up having to cut lots of different little bits off to make sure that the herringbone pattern fitted overall, which is why it took so long to install, but I think the finished look is worth it. We also installed panelling, so we've got panelling across the front of the bath and then around the room, to kind of add a bit more interest, so it's not just plain walls on the rest of the bath. But we've painted it all the same colour again, so that it doesn't, it kind of makes the ceiling feel higher and makes the space not feel quite as small as it would do if you kind of had a harsh line going round the middle with 2 different colours at different heights. Now I'll take you into the nursery. Follow me. So we have an almost 1-year-old daughter called Eliza, and this is her room. So let me show you around. Again, when we moved in, this room didn't exist. This was just kind of a corner of our back bedroom. So the window was the only thing that was kind of the thing that we've kept, and that was basically, like I said, in the bathroom, so that we had that dividing wall between the two, and that kind of determined the size of the room that we could have here. So it is quite a small room, but it does fit everything that we need for our daughter in here. When actually we first designed this room, it actually started life as an office because we work from home a lot. So we had kind of a year of using this as an office, which is why we've got the hard floor. So it's just a wood laminate effect floor that we've got in here. But we had that because we've got the office chairs, so it kind of makes them glide more easily rather than having carpet. Then when we found out we were having a baby, we thought, okay, we probably need to change that room into a nursery now so that we have somewhere for her to sleep. So rather than just kind of ripping up the flooring that we'd only installed a year ago, we decided to get a rug instead so that there was still a soft place for her to play, but we weren't kind of throwing out everything that we'd done a year previously. So we got this rug actually in a sale. So it was, I think it was only about £40 for the rug, so which is really, really cheap because they're normally a few £100s. We got it in a sale up in Newcastle from the wholesaler, so we got some really good deals on some of the stuff in her room actually. And that's also where we got this canopy from, so it's from the brand Little Dutch, the rug and the canopy. Which again we got in a warehouse sale from them, and it was one of the first things that we bought for her room. I think it just looks really cute on top of her cot, so that's why we bought it. I do have to take it down when she's asleep because obviously don't want her pulling that onto herself and suffocating in the night, so it's probably not the most practical, but it looks pretty and that's the main thing, right? And then I then chose the wallpaper kind of based off the colour of the canopy because it was one of the first things we bought, and I found this really cute floral wallpaper from a company called Lucy Annabelle, and installed it, kind of did this back when I think I was probably like 6 or 7 months pregnant, wallpapering in here in the height of summer, which was not the most enjoyable project, but it really, I think it works because the colour match is almost perfect to the canopy and it kind of ties all of the bits we've got in here together. We also got the sheet from that same company, Little Dutch, in that wholesale sale. So again, it all kind of matches from a colour perspective. Because the room is quite small, I decided not to have the wallpaper on every single wall because I think that would just be too much, and frankly I don't think I had the energy to wallpaper 4 walls at that time. So we just painted the other 2 walls in kind of a neutral kind of soft grey colour, so it's not completely harsh white, but it's also not too bright and doesn't kind of take your eye away from the wallpaper because that's kind of the focal point of the room. And then we've just got like a little set of shelves where we keep some of her things on, her changing table, and a chest of drawers where we keep all of her clothes. A chair to kind of sit and read in, and then we've got a bookshelf on the wall here which is just a few of her many books, which at 1 month old I do not know how many she's going to have by the time she's 18 because we've got a lot already. Now I'll take you to our loft bedroom. Welcome to our loft bedroom. So obviously when we first moved in, this room didn't exist at all, so actually we had a bit of a shock when we moved in because the previous owners, despite the fact that I think they hired 3 or 4 skips to clear out their loft, had actually left quite a lot of things in here. So it did take us a fair amount of time to clear all the random junk that was up here. We did find that up in the loft though, and I decided to keep it because I thought that's probably the only thing in this house that has some kind of look that is something that I appreciate. So we've decided to keep that, although haven't really worked out what it's doing yet. It just sits in the corner of the room. But yeah, so this space didn't exist at all. So we got the loft conversion done in, I think, around February 2022. So we'd lived in the house for around 2 years at that point. The house had gone up quite a lot in value during those 2 years that we'd been living here, so we remortgaged to be able to afford to do the loft conversion. It's quite annoying that we couldn't afford to do it in 2020 when we first moved in, because obviously after COVID and the lockdowns that we had, the price of doing a loft conversion I think had doubled, because we had quotes when we first moved in and then we obviously got it re-quoted in 2022. So it's a shame we couldn't have afforded to do it back then. But anyway, we went ahead with it once we'd remortgaged, and it's given us just the most amazing space. It's, I guess, increased our kind of the footprint of the house quite significantly, because we have a whole extra bedroom up here, and it's quite a good sized bedroom. We've actually moved our desk up into the bedroom now, because once we had to convert Eliza's room from an office into her room, we needed somewhere for it to be able to work. So we've got a desk up here, and we also have a desk in here. So this is a fold down wall desk. So both of us can work in here if we're both working from home at the same time. So that's really handy. And this one kind of blends in with the wall, and you can kind of put everything in it. And my laptop's in there at the moment, and my keyboard and everything. It's all hidden away, which is really handy. And then we've got obviously the bed, and we had the loft conversion company put the 2 lights in either side, so that we kind of had wall lights and we wouldn't be taking up extra space on bedside tables, and we'd have space to put things like plants on them. The bedside tables are actually one of my favourite things in here. They are from Dunelm, which is a homeware shop, and I just think they look really high end, but they were really, really cheap. They were such a bargain. Yeah, and then we've got the bed. So this space here is, I think it's only 1.1 metre high up to the roof where it starts to slant again. So it's actually quite difficult to find a bed that I like the look of that would fit in that space, because a lot of them tended to have headboards that were too high. And obviously we want to make sure it is right back against the wall, so it's not encroaching any further into the space here. So that took quite a lot of trawling on the internet to find a bed that would fit into this space. But I think this one works pretty well. So then on the other side of the room, we've got this Juliet balcony, where obviously we live in a terraced street neighbourhood, so we can obviously see all of our neighbours, but it's really good to be able to open these doors up fully in the summer and be able to look out and get that breeze through the house as well, because with it being a loft conversion, it can get quite warm up here. So yeah, this is one of the dog's favourite places to come and have a look out and see what's going on in the neighbours' gardens. And over here we've got our ensuite bathroom. So it's a really small space, but we've managed to fit quite a lot in. When we actually had originally designed the loft, we had the sink actually in this spot, so we would have needed a really, really narrow sink, because what we didn't realise was we could take the wall back so that it went above the chimney breast, because the chimney breast goes diagonally up like this, but we thought we would have to have the wall fully in front of the chimney breast, but actually the chimney breast goes down and it continues all the way down here until it kind of like goes down into the floor there. So you can't obviously use this bit because the chimney breast is behind there, but it meant that we could push the sink back and kind of make this sink area look like a built-in vanity unit, even though you can't actually use the below bit. And then we've kind of got this storage area to the right-hand side of it as well, where we can keep things, and that again goes all the way back to the wall. And the same thing with the toilet. We wanted to have the kind of the look of I guess like more of like a hotel kind of look, where you don't see the cistern behind it. So that's got an inbuilt cistern, which sits in the kind of cabinetry behind, and then we installed worktops on the top. So it's got a worktop that goes all the way around that we can store things like our plants and just generally make the space feel a bit more kind of high end. We've also got this kind of mosaic marble floor, which I absolutely love, and is, yeah, the tiles were quite expensive, but they're so worth it, because you walk on them every single day, and they really transformed the look of the bathroom, because everything else we installed ourselves. So we installed things like the countertop, we cut that ourselves and installed that ourselves. We did all of the paneling ourselves, decorated the whole thing ourselves. Behind the door we've also got a shower, which again, it has got, we used something called shower wall, so it's kind of panels that you can put up rather than tiles. And we again installed that ourselves to save money, and it looks kind of, we've used a marble effect one, so it kind of looks like you've got a big slab of marble in there, but actually it's made of kind of coated MDF, so it kind of gives the high-end look without breaking the bank, which was really important to us because we spent all our money on the building work, so we needed to be able to finish off the rooms as cheaply as we could, with doing as much of the work ourselves as possible, and we didn't really feel up to tiling walls, so we went with this shower wall, which has worked out really, really well for us. home means to me, it's probably all about family. It's a place that you're comfortable and a place that you can just be yourself. I think especially since we've had our daughter almost a year ago, the meaning of home has probably changed and it's become much more important, especially because we're spending so much more time here now than we probably had done previously. So making sure it's kind of comfortable and reflects your personality and is a space where you want to spend time is really important. So I'd say that's probably what home means to me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.